Hi everyone, I'm Charles Ang. Here with us today is COL's Chief Technical Analyst Juanis Barredo, and we'll be going over some of the top traded stocks of our clients over the past month. Hi Juanis.
Hi Charles. Hello.
Right, so we have 10 stocks here that are the most actively traded of our clients over the past month, and we'd just like to get your quick technical view with the eye on the short term.
Sure.
Okay, so let's go straight to the first stock. We have Semirara or SCC.
Yeah. So Semirara has actually been a very popular issue with many of our clients, and although we've seen quite a bit of a decline in recent time, I think it's going through a profit-taking situation, and I hope to be seeing a short-term low with the correction that it's taken in. So maybe closer to about 28 or 26.50. We hope we can see some support for it to make a technical bounce, but I think until the correction ends, you probably want to buy this on the low price and sell it on the high band of the chart, and we've identified some resistance areas for you guys to sell it to.
All right. I have a question, sir, on companies like commodity companies like SCC or even nickel. How much do you look at the underlying chart of the underlying commodity, the chart of the underlying commodity?
Good thing to point that out, because I think much of the movement will probably be factoring in what the commodity price first does. So in the case of what we're seeing with energy prices have actually come down, and that could be a very much a contributing factor as to where we're seeing with Semirara. So unless we see a major rebound in oil prices or in heating, oil and gas, we might see some softness into the short or medium term.
All right, thank you. Let's go to the next one. We have SPNEC.
Well, SPNEC is in the opposite situation. It's been recovering quite well. The rally that we've seen, though, I think has been a bit more on the extreme side. So I'm anticipating that we're probably going to see a correction in SPNEC. So maybe a consolidation would be the right time to be moving into this, lighten down your position, especially if it rallies, and then maybe look to be able to find opportunities when it comes back closer to support, which I'm looking at maybe all the way down to about 145. So just lighten up for the meantime. You can hold a core position. Just look for the potential for buybacks there once the correction ends.
Of course, there's also recent news for the benefit of our clients. There's also recent news, I think last end March, wherein MPI acquired 16%, but at a lower price, 1.25, right? So how does it, when something like that happens, how does it factor in as a market technician? How does that affect?
Well, I think the immediate plan is, although it may not be a big amount for the company because it's not a controlling stake, it does tell you that if an interest of a big party like this comes in, there could possibly be more to come. And I think this is what people have been playing off. And if you were to look at the graph, we saw a very, very substantial up move, especially from this area right here. And I think the market now is just going to a profit-taking stage. But I think they'll be looking for more for this later on because of that story.
All right. Thank you. Okay, the next one we have Ayala Land.
Ayala Land also is a bit on the weaker stage. This is really because we feel that high interest rates are impacting the nature of the business. Given that particular type of slowdown, it's very typical to see these types of consolidations that look like reactive channels. It's now describing itself in a very wide band because we've got support closer to about 25.40 or 24.85. The high band of this sits something close to about 27.45 to maybe even 29. So for now, maybe they can range trade this until it can break out of that range later. That's the only time I would advise becoming a bit more aggressive. But for now, buy this on the rebounds from support.
All right, very clear. Okay, next one, we have PLDT or TEL.
Well, PLDT looked like earlier on in the latter portion of March, it started to be able to try to rally well, but unfortunately, we saw it get hit quite hard into the reaction. I thought by that time that we'll probably see something more solid, but it fell all the way back down to the Feb-March low, which is not exactly a good sign. So there's a possibility we could actually see it move a little lower, and so I've put support back down between 246 to maybe even 1144. So look for opportunities to buy it maybe on that type of softness, and then range trade for the meantime until we see a better breakout surface from PLDT.
All right, okay. Okay, next one, Globe.
Okay. I think Globe is one of the weaker ones in terms of the telco sector, next to maybe one more. And right now, I'm still not looking at very nice setup formations for Globe. It's currently in a downward channel, and it's making a consolidation near the low. Again, that's not a good sign because it looks like people are still distributing the shares or selling their shares from it. So we might see a little bit more weakness into this. So keep an eye on support between 1720 and about 1620. So within that 100-point range, and let's hope that it can stabilize at that range.
I think maybe just to add some color to that, no, from an analyst perspective, I think one of the issues for Globe, and to a lesser extent PLDT, is the weakness of the broadband segment. And Globe, because it has more wireless subscribers, wireless broadband subscribers, that's really getting a hit in the recent quarters. And so maybe that's the reason why the share.
You're seeing unusual weakness in this as against the other. Okay.
Yeah. All right. Okay. Great. So next one we have MPI.
Yeah. Well, I think MPI went through a little bit of some stories recently, and it shot up very, very, very strongly. Unfortunately, it made a very bearish pattern on the high side. We call this a head and shoulders pattern. If you were to look at the chart, you'd see here a shoulder, head, shoulder formation, and then a breakdown took place right from here. Normally, when you see formations like that, that means a heavy amount of selling is being done. It could be by insiders, it could be by heavy position stakeholders, maybe taking advantage of the news that had recently come out. And then currently it's still producing a very bearish pattern, which I think I would stay defensive in for the time being until I see something better come up.
So, like, when you see a pattern, a bearish pattern or reversal pattern like that, for a company, as you said, experiencing some rumors or speculations of a potential, foreign partner or even privatization. When you see the sharp decline there during March, what does it make you? How do you react to that? What does it tell you?
I normally don't see that type of pattern, and the reason is because if something really solid is about to surface, you would get what we call an accumulation pattern, something that shows greater solid movements to accumulate the stock. But here we saw the opposite. We saw a group selling. It seems like somebody knew what was going on and they were taking advantage of the high price. And then you get a distributive pattern of such. And currently we're seeing a wedge-like pattern, which is also not exact, it's also quite bearish. So it looks like the selling continues to be done despite whatever news that we've come up. So I think take it with a grain of salt. Maybe it might take time for the deal to come out and people are just taking advantage of it for the meantime. So just give it a little bit more time. If we can get this maybe a little in a lower area, you don't have to be too aggressive as of the moment.
Okay, thank you for that. Next one, we have MONDE.
Okay, so I think it's one of the most bearish patterns I've seen along our index stocks. And we had a major break from support. If you would see our graph, there was this horizontal line. It just completely trounced itself off. But it's now trying to be able to level off where the channel's low is. So it's taking a shot to see if we can hold from here. I think it's still a bit too risky to be able to buy this as of right now because it's quite possible that low can still break. And so I would rather give it a bit more time before I would come around to be able to pick up shares in this, or maybe even just wait for the downtrend line to break before I would look back at MONDE.
What do you think, sir, about potential, potential capitulation trading, right? For clients to maybe saying the sell-off has been too much. Yes. What are you against that, or do you think it's a good idea to do that now for MONDE?
Well, I think you should have tried that after it fell for 2 or 3 days. I mean, that would have been the capitulation, right? And if it were the good trade, you would have seen this recover much faster. But what it did, it just stayed sideways. So that means despite the capitulation or the very big drop, somebody was still selling, right? And my guess is because in those 2 or 3 days drop that we saw, it was very difficult to sell a position. And those people who are trying to adjust to what the situation was are still doing it now. So that's why I'm saying don't be aggressive here for it to end. Once the selling peters out and we see key breaks of resistance, and I think that'll tell you that the worst is over and it might be a safer time for you to enter then.
All right. So again, just for the benefit of our clients, MONDE, the reason for this sharp decline was because of a 20 billion impairment loss that they booked in the last quarter. And this was in their meat alternative business. So it kind of signals, I guess, to the investors that maybe it's not looking as good, that segment of the business, right? And yeah, so just to put some context there, that sometimes the fundamentals really do drive the price action. Right?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Next one, we have DMC.
Okay, so I think DMC has gone through a very strong period that late last year. Stock price went from roughly 8 pesos all the way to 12, and it's going through a profit-taking stage right now. And of course, given the context that it is also following suit with its subsidiary, which is Semirara, if you notice, the pattern is generally the same. So I think that they'll probably follow the same steps moving forward. It's testing essential support right now. If we do crack that 1050, we might see a little bit more downside, 960 or 950 into the short term. So again, we just stay first on the side. You're in the middle of a pattern. I'd rather buy it on the low side of the pattern rather right smack in the center. So just give it a little bit more time.
Okay, next one, BDO.
Okay, so BDO is actually quite strong compared to many of the stocks that we had today. And despite the banking crisis that we saw that took place in the US, BDO managed to be able to stay quite firm. Very different than the other banks that we have in the Philippines as well. So I'd think that at this stage, I would try to hold my core position, but maybe sell a little bit because we're coming towards a high point of the first resistance, closer to 137. If we still see a bit more upside, hopefully closer between 140 to 143, I think that'd be a prime time to take some profits first and then look for potential buybacks when it retraces back to support.
To add some color to that, BDO just reported their earnings, I think, a few days ago, and it was really very strong. So I think 16.5 billion for the first quarter, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think for 2022, BDO reported the second biggest earnings in the Philippines, in the entire Philippines, next behind SM, only behind SM. So I guess they're really doing something correct, right? So, and it has been supporting the share price.
And I think when we did our first outlook this year, we did center on banks being one of the more formidable sectors to concentrate on. And I think the performance of BDO is proving that particular call quite right.
Maybe as a sidetrack lang a bit, what can you say about the other banks seemingly performing not as well? Still weak, still stronger than the other sectors maybe, but not as strong as BDO. Does it tell you something? I mean,
I think it's just really what reverbed off this weakness we saw in the banking crisis in the US. Because people were saying, all right, because of this, stay with a bigger bank because that might be the more safer option. Of course, BPI and Metrobank are quite big as well, and I really don't think we'd probably see any hits from there. But I think people are just saying, okay, let's stick with the largest, and that's what they feel where it is safe. And that's the reason we've seen outstanding performance or outperformance there as compared to the rest. But I think the others will respond as well.
So as a general rule, for example, when you see a sector and you see a leader, and you see BDO, for example, as the leader, going up first, right? Do you advise clients to try to look for, is it a good idea to look for the other banks? Like what potential setups might be there for the other banks that could follow? Or just stick to the strong ones?
Well, I would primarily stick with the strong ones, but when we go into the stage where your primarily strong one is already going up and away, hitting overbought conditions, and you think that your upsides are becoming much more minimal, then there might be an opportunity to switch to another one. But I would only maybe stay in the top tier area of that sector. I wouldn't go much further than maybe number 2 or number 3. Okay. Because it will not react the same on the smaller ones.
Okay, so top 2 or 3 only. All right, next one, Jollibee. I think this is our last month. Yeah.
Well, I was a bit surprised with this because in the beginning I thought Jollibee would be able to hold on to support quite well. Unfortunately, it did not. It broke through with its 200-day average and it sank quite fast. Currently, it's trying to make a sideways pattern near the low end of its channel. Again, just like the other stock we talked about earlier, that's not necessarily still very strong, even though it is retesting support. But I want to see this climb a little bit more to gain better traction for it to be able to support an entry. Because right now, the best I can do is buy it on the low, because being below the moving averages, being inside a reactive channel, being inside a rectangle inside that channel, these are all technical points of weakness that I would rather stay defensive on until I see otherwise.
All right. Thank you as always, Sir Juanes, for your wonderful insights.
No, thank you. I hope everybody can be able to take advantage of what we looked at.
All right. All right, there you have it, guys. We certainly do hope that we were able to help at your trading portfolio in the coming months. If you need more guidance, feel free to look at our tech spotlight, which we publish daily.